focus of this lesson is on introducing reduced speech to English language learners of various ages. According to the Japanese governing body for education, a big issue with students failing to pass English entrance exams is that students are often confused when they speak directly with native speakers of English because they sound different than the recorded dialogues they listen to. This lesson will help students to gain some understanding of native English speech patterns. When you first begin to practice English as a second language, you are given sentences and phrases in formal pronunciation. For example, I have to take my cat out tomorrow. She has to see a vet. However, you also need to practice what are called reduced forms of English. Learning and using reduced forms will demonstrate your fluency in English. Since most native English speakers use reduced speech, as a student, you need to become familiar with it, or the messages you need to hear and communicate may be hindered. So, it's important to study the reduced forms of speaking as early as possible. A good place to begin is with auxiliary verbs such as have and has, and should have and could have. Let's look a little closer at the reduced forms. In these examples, we see that have to reduces to have to and has to reduces to has to. So, I have to take my cat out tomorrow. She has to see a vet. Now, my cat didn't like that much, but those are good examples. In order to get a sense of how to use reduced forms, it will be helpful to practice with other students. You can produce your own sentences and create dialogues by telling your partner what you have to do tomorrow or in the coming week. They can do the same for you. You can expand the conversation by joining another pair and share with them what your partner has to do tomorrow. Next, you could look at should have and could have in their reduced forms. Examples: I should have studied harder for the test, or I could have studied harder for the test. For further practice with reduced forms, a fun project would be to record a short conversation between you and another student and transcribe it. Then rewrite the conversation using reduced speech, or fill in where reduced forms ought to go. Studying reduced forms is also a good idea for elementary-aged ESL, EFL learners. Once introduced to these forms, you can practice them in classroom games such as Uno, a card game that calls for matching and is great for verbal prompts based on the color that comes up. As well, using a die works well for practicing. Just think of a topic for each number on a die, for example homework, and assign it to the number 2. When you roll a die and that number comes up, you have to form a sentence using a reduced form. You can say, I have to do some homework, or I should have done my homework. Using reduced speech is vital to understanding and being understood in English. Become familiar with them and start using them when you use English.